saying out loud. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's episode. Hey y'all, prepare yourself for the rubber band. Man, you never heard the sound when the rubber band starts to jam. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tuesday. And guess what? Your boy is almost coming to you live right now, recording this on a Tuesday, right before this episode comes out. Why? Because sometimes we have technical difficulties. Oh, golly. Sometimes our shit just breaks. Sometimes our microphone doesn't want to work. Oh, and sometimes our camera overheats. Sometimes we buy a brand new camera and it just breaks for no reason. I know it's hot in Texas. But a brand new camera overheats. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Okay, listen. This is not a full episode. I'm not attacking Disney. There's nothing subliminal there. I'm not part of the Illuminati in the Disney Triangle Pyramid. Someone's going to screenshot that 15 years. This is going to be used against me, okay, in the court of law. We recorded a whole episode, had it ready to the camera shut off mid-episode, near the end of the episode, and I still trudged through it. And then when we got to the end of it, Pro Tools, what we record this on, just decided that, we're not going to make this audio usable. Something happened. It could actually be Illuminati. It could be Mickey Mouse himself. And there's a whole bunch of different conspiracies you could throw at it. Listen, we're on the right track. That's all that matters. Okay, listen, the results don't matter, baby. We just keep chugging along. Okay, everybody thinks they just see the end result. But you know what? You people that have been with me since the beginning of this podcast, shout out. Okay, when we hit 1 million subscribers on this podcast, guess what? Those first 100 subscribers, I'm going to give you a whale. Okay, I'm going past Oprah, and you get a whale, and you get a whale, and you get an endangered dolphin. I'm going to be looking for the rarest creatures to give people. Hell, I might even be giving away children. You know, I'm going to put that on some people. Be like, I don't know, train it, do something with it. It's going to show up with it. And I like those parents who walk their kids around with the little kids with the monkey backpacks. Have you seen that? They pretend that their little backpacks, sorry, ma'am, your backpack, your kid's backpack has a leash on it. And no wonder your little 2-year-old is wiling out like a rabid squirrel locked in a laundromat because you're treating it like that. Okay? You guys ever seen that? I've literally seen at the mall a mom walking her kid like he's a goddamn feral creature, and this little thing just running around, ripping up fucking clothes on the rack, just trying to get free. Hey, you put someone in a cage, they're gonna try to break out. Okay, now that kid probably has a fucking asphyxiation kink because of that. Isn't that fucked up that you develop your kinks when you're like 0 to like 5 years old, whatever that age is, whatever happens? Like, why do you think there's all the spanking kinks? Why do you think that 99% of this planet likes to be spanked? Isn't that weird? No one's stopping to talk about that. Everybody wants to talk about Monsanto and all these other conspiracies in the government. Everybody wants to be spanked. What the fuck? Have you ever met someone who was like, whoa, did you just spank me? No, not okay. No, everybody's down for it. Everybody's down for that. They're just like, yeah, that works for me. That gets me going. I don't know why. Being like I'm in trouble gets me going. Dude, that's such a weird thing when you start breaking down kinks and you start thinking about like how there's like top level executives. Like I remember listening to a podcast with the dominatrix chick, and she was talking about how all these executives, because they're so powerful in their day life, that they wanted to be humiliated. They wanted to feel like they're on the bottom of the totem pole. And for some of them, the bottom of that totem pole was getting peed on. Okay. And that's fine. Whatever. I guess it's sterile. Listen, There are very few things on this planet that I would let pee on me. Okay. Obviously, when you have a child, you're like, this thing's just going to pee on you. And you just got to be okay with it. Okay. And then after that, maybe Shakira. Okay. Maybe that's it. Maybe Shakira. Okay. That's it. But there's some people who are like, yeah, I'll just take a stranger's. There's people who are just, I don't know. There's got to be people who just like, they just like the taste of it. Okay. There was that thing, Lyoto Machida, MMA fighter, UFC. He would drink his first pee of the day. There was even an interview where my mouth starts weirdly, like, you know, when you're like, feel like you're going to puke, your mouth almost starts salivating. I had a preface saying my mouth started salivating thinking about that because I didn't want anybody to think that thinking about Lyoto Machida drinking his pee made me salivate. Okay. Not in a sexual way. I just find out that's my kink. Anyway, there was an interview where Machida was being interviewed by this girl and this young woman. They both peed in separate cups. And part of the interview, they drank each other's pee. And my initial thought is there's something weird and sexual about that. I don't know why, but they did it. They drank each other's pee. And Machida would think it was this thing where your first pee of the day has all these vitamins and minerals in it that you can, it's actually good for you if you drink your first pee of the day. Because it just has all this stuff that replenishes you. Hey, you ever heard of a multivitamin? You ever heard of that? You ever heard of a little thing called Himalayan pink salt? You just sprinkle a little bit of that in water, you get all those minerals and more. You don't have to sip your own piss, okay? Like, what do you... again, I can't imagine that. But some people do it for sustenance, and they supplement with it. They're like, yeah, this is for my health. And then some people want to be peed on because they're like, and this is for my sexual health. This is for, I mean, maybe it's good for your skin. Probably not. It's really acidic, right? I just don't see the appeal in it. And I guess that's the thing. Everybody has their own kinks. All right. I don't know how we got off to this start. But listen, it's hotter than normal in Texas, and we're just adapting, okay? We're just trying to get through it, all right? It's so hot in Texas right now. How hot is it? It's pretty hot, okay? It's hot enough to where I question life when I'm walking into a store from the parking lot, okay? I'll just be somewhere and have just sweat living in my ass crack. I pretty much have like the Dagobah system from Star Wars. Currently, we're fine. But if we go outside for more than 20, 30 minutes, and I'm just walking around and doing stuff in the middle of the day, I can hear in the distance a little, use the force you must. Because I get so much sweat down my back and my ass crack that Yoda himself is training Luke Skywalker in my ass crack because it turns into the Dagobah system. Okay, it's just this whole thing that takes place. It's swampy. There's like, I don't know, some kind of creatures. There's swamp monsters. There's a little bit of everything back there. I think at one point the Loch Ness Monster was porting up back there. Anyway, it's a ridiculous thing to say. But speaking of conspiracies, I had ants coming through the wall. The same day that I have ants starting to come through the wall, and I get it. It's hot as shit out there. It feels like you're on Mars. I don't know if Mars is hot, but it feels like it. The same day that ants start coming through the wall, the pest control company calls. And they're like, hey, we just wanted to see if you needed any pest control in your house or anything like that. And I'm like, come get your goddamn government spy drone ants out of my home, you piece of shit. Okay? Because everybody thinks these conspiracies with the government is all about, taking away your rights and your guns. It's about pest control. Okay? That's what it's always been about, the bottom dollar. All right? Inflation's through the roof. Listen, it's a weird time. It's a weird time to just be a person. I think about this a lot. When was the best time to be a human in the sense of quality of life? Because we are at a weird point of history. It could go either way. Like, we're legit on the cusp of some weird shit happening. We have the shit going on with Russia. And then listen, I don't want to make anybody alarmed in this podcast. I know this is supposed to be a comedy podcast, but we go a little further than that sometimes. Sometimes we get a little serious and we talk about things that we're not qualified to talk about. Some things that we just know very little about, but we pretend like we're at the bottom of the iceberg with it. You know what I'm saying? It's a weird time in history because things could go south. Things could go south. Disregard the email sound that you just heard. We could go to war with Russia, go to war with China. Inflation is terrible. I just saw, lead financial experts say that there could be a recession. Oh, wait. After 2 years of shutting down the country and printing all this money, we could have consequences for that? But what? How's this happening? Wait, the chickens are coming home to roost? What, water is wet? Oh, the sun is hot? Texas has a lot of bugs? I could have told you that, ladies and gentlemen. It is interesting. It is a weird time because like gas is really so expensive. Your boy drives a truck. I've never wanted my truck to identify as a Prius more in my life. Okay. I've been thinking about it. I'm actually thinking about selling my truck and trying to get like a Prius or some kind of fuel efficient car because this is incredible. Okay. I'm about 20 to 25 miles out of Austin where I need to go pretty much daily, nightly. And when I'm getting like 12 to 15 miles per gallon, it's rough. I got to make decisions. I'm like, is this trip is going to cost me at this point $15 to $20 just to get there? You know, isn't that insanity? Not really that much, but it's just a weird thing. It's a weird thing because it's going to make people have to be more independent and make decisions based off of what they can actually afford and like the life they can have. It's like the middle class is really being pushed down to lower class, and lower class is just going to like disappear into being homeless because it's already at the point where people are having to start getting second and third jobs. I know people who are teachers and they have a second job. I know people who are comedians and now they're starting to have like 2 to 3 random jobs just to be able to do what they want to do. It's just getting to a weird place with all this inflation. And I wish people would take responsibility, even in a sense of just having unity, of bringing people together. One of the most powerful things I've ever learned in my life was accepting responsibility. Even if that responsibility, even if it's not your fault. There's a lot of stuff that like, it was kind of life-changing when I looked at things as whether or not this was done to me, and there's a reason why this is happening. At this point, to get out of it, I have to accept responsibility of it. Whether it was my fault or not, hey, this happening now, this is my responsibility, and accept fault for it, and you start rebuilding. I feel like it would be amazing if the Biden administration came out and was just like, hey, the economy's in a terrible place. Me as the leader, this falls on my shoulders. This happened under my watch. And as a country, we need to figure out a way to help people and to do better and to change this and to try to find a better trajectory. We have to work together and blah, blah, blah. Unite the country, okay? Don't divide. Don't say this is, these ideas of this and that. This is a lot of MAGA ideas, like literally calling back to MAGA and blaming for that. And then also Putin's tax. Saying that all this is Putin's tax with inflation and everything. Oh, Putin's tax is wild. hey, how is this guy in charge of our country? Putin. Oh, he's dictating what happens here now because he's putting a tax on us. It's like, are you really in charge, or is he in charge? Is like the question when you start blaming other people, it doesn't help. And I feel like it makes things more divided, and people just get more confused and more upset because there's no solution. There's no way to work towards fixing it, which is almost the game, is that they just want people to be confused and emotional and have a hair trigger response to everything. Which again, we've talked about this so much on the podcast about the media and control and everything like that, where, shit just got wild. Listen, it all comes down to regulating yourself and taking care of yourself. Your boy's at the point where I'm about to start growing plants. I already hunt. I'm going to start trying to grow my own vegetables. And I just want to become as independent as possible. I'm going to take control of my health. I've been healthy, but there's like another level of being healthy that I need to get to. Sometimes I'm a glutton. I gorge food. Late night, I come home from doing a set. I just want to eat everything. Break out the chips and guacamole. Your boy's a problem. And I'm like, I just need to dial that all in. Okay. I need to take better care of myself. And I'm gonna start doing walkathons with the way these gas prices are. It's just, you got to do what you got to do. But ladies and gentlemen, what else is going on in this world? Okay, listen. If you can't tell by the shirt, if you're just listening, Jurassic Park. Okay, my favorite movie of all time is Jurassic Park, the original. Okay. I read the book when I was like 8 years old. Phenomenal book. Love the story that Michael Crichton came up with. Love what Steven Spielberg did with that first movie. It was a great movie, a perfect movie. It executed that storyline very well. Listen to me. Listen to Evan. It is the only successful dinosaur franchise. And you might be thinking, Evan, it's the only dinosaur franchise. Not true. Not true at all. There are tons of dinosaur movies, but they're all terrible. They either lack budget, they lack storyline, and enough conviction to get picked up by bigger studios. So they end up just being pushed to these, remember like the Sci-Fi Channel TV movies. And your boys watched a lot of them because I love me some dinosaurs. Okay. I liked Lost World. Lost World got a little interesting. I thought Jurassic Park 3 was the worst movie in the franchise. Jurassic Park 3, for those who don't know, Dr. Grant, it basically was a side quest. Jurassic Park 3 could have sunk any chance of a further movie because it was such a terrible movie. They had to wait 10 years to get the stench off before they could make Jurassic World, the first one. It felt like a side quest. There was no real stakes in the movie of it being, a bigger thing. Jurassic Park, the original, okay, this was a masterpiece because the big storyline is Malcolm, Dr. Malcolm, is the most important character in Jurassic Park, period. Out of anybody else, he's the most important because he's almost the narrator of the underlying story of Jurassic Park. When they're at lunch, well, first, when he's talking about how do you know all the dinosaurs are female? And he starts spilling the whole life finds a way. You can't control life and all of that. And he starts talking about the chaos theory and the butterfly flaps its wings and the weather changes halfway across the world. All of that, it ties into the lunch where he's telling them, you didn't earn any of this knowledge. So you didn't develop the discipline to be able and the responsibility to handle it. You stood on the shoulders of what other men discovered, and you are like a child who finds his dad's gun and is waving it around. it's a brilliant idea of not understanding the power that you wield because you didn't earn any of this knowledge and discipline that it takes to get that knowledge. You were just given it. And I think that's like the most profound thing about that entire movie thing is, oh, you think you can control this, but you don't really understand it. And that's like kind of the through line of the entire Jurassic Park franchise, getting into the Jurassic World, everything like that. Hammond was, he never kind of learned from it, and he died, and his vision was taken over by, I forgot who the Jurassic World guy is, who ends up dying, but he owns the park. He creates this, he makes Hammond's dream come to reality, and he creates the park and everything. And it was his vision, but it was like that vision was so flawed. So of course it was a matter of time because they started, again, playing God, genetic engineering. And they made this crazy dinosaur. Guess what? That crazy dinosaur escapes because you didn't earn any of this. And I thought it was brilliant. I think it's a brilliant franchise. And all this leading up to, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have some spoilers, okay? Spoilers for Jurassic World Dominion start now, okay? Because people were going in on this movie. And I'm like, you really have to be a fan of the story of Jurassic Park, the idea behind it. And listen, there's not much that could have, I'll preface this by saying there's not much that could have made this a bad movie for me. If main characters died, it could have been bad. It just had to cross a certain threshold to be considered a good movie to me. And it went above and beyond that. I think this was a great movie and a great end to Jurassic World. Okay. Now I have my own ideas on what movie I would have rather seen, but people are going in on how bad this story was. It was disappointing, the acting, all of that. And it's like, dude, you have to think about where they had to go with this story. What did they have to do to not repeat themselves and actually make it real stakes in the world? And that's what I pay attention to, is the underlying story of what Jurassic Park is. And it's always about a kid waving his dad's gun around, not understanding the responsibility and power that he has. And again, that's what happens in this movie is they start messing around with genetics because there's some mad scientist, some guy who's power hungry, kind of sociopath. And they start developing, these locusts that are destroying all the crops except for the ones that are genetically modified by their company. And it turns into a great movie. I thought, listen, if you're going to bring dinosaurs into the modern world and we have to live amongst them, that is a very delicate thing to be able to pull off, to just have dinosaurs around us, how it's going to be, how we're going to handle it. I thought the pacing of the movie was great. I thought they did phenomenal. This was the most dinosaurs they've ever had in a movie. I thought they did phenomenal with bringing in new dinosaurs, giving us different looks, different scenarios. They had great action scenes, but to be honest, the action scenes for me aren't really the most important part of a movie or a story to me. I care about the storyline. That's why I think Succession, if you haven't seen Succession, that's probably top 5 best TV shows of all time. Maybe. It's such great storylines and contrast and character development and character arcs and character changes and the drama. And it's just like everything they do with that show is so great. It's almost like they play musical chairs and move things around with characters in different positions of power and weakness and distraught and confidence and weak. And they play around with all these different characters under different pressures. And it's fucking beautiful. But we're not talking about that right now. But I think this is a great movie and people aren't giving it its due credit. Jurassic World, phenomenal. You also have to take it for what it is, that this is a dinosaur movie and you have to try to find some reality in it. Is people or fucking pterodactyls going to be like nesting on the top of buildings? No. Okay. So you got to suspend belief a little bit. What was the one point I wanted to make about it? Fuck. We forgot it. We forgot it, ladies and gentlemen. I thought it was great, though. I thought it was great bringing in the old characters. They tied in so many Easter eggs and so many storylines and odes and nods to the previous movies and people's ideas of the previous movies. And they really almost was like a love letter to the fans of the original Jurassic Park, which is why I liked it. I enjoyed it because they put effort into it to really have it all intertwine. And it's what I wish Game of Thrones would have been. I'll never forgive Game of Thrones. There is zero rewatch ability on Game of Thrones because what they did with that last season. It's almost like they were cooking up this huge feast, and at the end of it, when we were getting ready to say grace, they shit on the table. That's what Game of Thrones did. And it just, you can't watch it because I'm like, you guys didn't give a shit to tying up any of these storylines at all. You just rushed it through. And it was lazy, it was terrible, and you guys will never be forgiven. And the showrunners, you guys, I will never forgive you for that. Okay. I wish, and this is what I think they should do, is you know how even they went and did the Snyder cut for Justice League? Thought that was cool. It was almost like here, we'll give you guys what you want, which I thought was good. I thought it was a great movie. Little long. I would love to see an animated series of that final season of Game of Thrones the way that the writer actually wanted it. Because with that season, and I want to say the previous season, they got ahead of the books. You know, they had been following his guides of the books up until that last season, and then they got ahead of it, and they were like, well, now we have to write the story. And it's the same thing. It's going back to that. You didn't earn any of this discipline, this knowledge. You just followed. You were tracing pictures the whole time and thought you were a fucking artist. And then you got to the part where it was like, now draw a duck. And you drew what looked like a pigeon on the spectrum. Okay? That's what it came down to. That's the reality of what happened with Game of Thrones. Anyway, I thought this Jurassic World movie was kind of what I wished Game of Thrones would have been, was a final conclusion on what is years, a lifetime of building this Jurassic Park movie. And I say a lifetime because I remember seeing it when I was like 6-7 years old. First time I saw Jurassic Park, I literally was terrified. I was around the same age as Timmy, I believe. And when the raptors like jumped up to like grab the girl's legs, I remember jumping my legs up in the theater. I slept that night, the first night watching Jurassic Park, in my closet, halfway in the closet, not even with the flashlight, but with a lamp. And I was pointing the lamp everywhere. And everywhere you point it, you know how shadows move when you point a light? I'd be like, oh, that's a fucking triceratops just moving through the hallway. Couldn't hear it, but I could see it. Okay? And maybe that's why I have a Jurassic Park kink now. Okay, ladies and gentlemen? I want to apologize for the kink I have. And it could be that. I could be clouded completely by the idea of nostalgia with this one. But I just think that's also that I've developed my own view and observation on what the through storyline is of Jurassic Park, if that makes sense. Now, the story that I would like to see, but you would never see it with a franchise like this, is because this isn't really a franchise that kills its darlings. What I mean by that is if you look at a show like Sons of Anarchy, it's the expression like kill your darlings or like kill your babies is like when, what's that play? Is it Hamilton? Where, no, it's not Hamilton. It's not Hamilton. Why can't I think of the name? Hamlet, where it's more of a tragedy. That's what fucking Sons of Anarchy is. Those last couple seasons when we just start losing our characters and it's just like they're dying in these, like it's a bittersweet ending the way that characters start dying. Jurassic Park would never do that. it'd be weird if at the end of that movie, Dr. Grant died saving, or, Malcolm died saving, the newer generation, or if, Blue died saving its baby. Like, it was never going to be that. This is still a popcorn flick. But the Jurassic World that I would have loved to see is, instead of Jurassic World Dominion, I would have loved to see Jurassic World Extinction. And instead of it being based around a controlled environment where dinosaurs are living around us, but we still have complete ownership of the food chain, we're not worried about them taking over. There was never a time in this movie where it was a threat. The military could come out, wipe everything out, but that wasn't happening. It was almost like we were trying to coexist. People, animal rights groups were protecting them. There was foundations, and there was sanctuaries for these creatures. We were studying them. In my movie, Jurassic World Extinction, we would have had a disease. We would have had a prehistoric disease, because that's what makes sense. We have, coronaviruses and what are they called? Are they zootopic? No. Diseases that basically jump from animals to humans. I used to know this word when the whole thing with pangolins was going on. Basically a disease that shouldn't be able to jump to a human can jump to a human through a host. Like you have, that was the theory, is that the coronavirus came from a pangolin, and in a wet market, there was a bat that was able to get sick from the pangolin, but the pangolin couldn't give it to a human, but it had this host in between where it was able to give coronavirus to the bat. People ate the bat. They got the disease from the bat. So it had like a bridge animal. And it would have been a cool storyline, something like that, where these prehistoric diseases came back, was able to jump species and go to humans. And humans were just, instantly those first few years, we lost like 70 to 75% of the human population. How crazy would that have been? And then it becomes a movie on, it's an apocalypse style movie, and there's dinosaurs everywhere. They're kind of taking over the earth again. We're now in the food chain. We're no longer the dominant species. And the movie is based around finding a cure for this disease and taking back Earth. But then you realize at the end of it, where it's like, this movie wasn't about the extinction of dinosaurs. It was about the extinction of humans. Mind blown. Not a dry ice in the house. Dry eye in the house. Bars. Use take two. How dope would it be? It wrapping up at the end of it. And Dr. Malcolm, the guy who the whole life finds a way. Dinosaurs had their shot. They were wiped out for a reason. We didn't earn any of this knowledge. And we wield the power. We can't contain it in the chaos. He's just quoting that. And as people are getting wiped out, and it's about like it's near the end of the movie, and you realize that humans are the ones becoming extinct. And we have this really dramatic quotes with him saying this, whether in person or just the throwback of the audio, but it's sinking in. And then you just have fucking Rexy. The same T-Rex that's been in every movie is from the original Jurassic Park. I checked. And it just does that thing when dinosaurs ruled the world. And then we realize it's a Jurassic World. Roll the curtains. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to this episode. If you want to see my film, we'll crowdfund it and we'll get it going. I'll recreate it with stick figures and action figures, okay? And ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and remember, no matter what, I still love you.